Hello and welcome to another episode of the broadcast. Today I have a super special guest, first guest for a little while, which is really nice to bring someone else on and listen to some interesting perspectives instead of listening to me droning on about running all the time. So we've got Cass, who's a health and performance coach based here in Dubai, who has recently went on his own solo adventure, and he is uh, operating in the sort of health and fitness space in Dubai. So welcome, Cass.
Thank you, mate. Thank you for the intro. Very nice.
I hope, hopefully, I covered roughly exactly what you do. Obviously, there's loads of like different facets to health and performance coaching, but do you want to give a brief overview of what you do?
Yeah, I guess one kind of statement that sums it up is I help people take control of their health and improve their performance. And that could be in different areas of their life, really. But whether that's their performance around how they're showing up in work, their kind of sports performance and health and fitness,
Hmm.
their mental performance, and different areas of life as well.
Yeah, so basically, you pretty much cover it all. And like, it's obviously an interesting little job because if you sort of I'm a believer that you can sort of there's a job like out there for everyone and you find your own thing. Like, how did you find that this is what you wanted to do and like help people in this sort of area?
Yeah, good question. Um, so
Thank
I
you.
guess not too bad at your job. Um, so I went to university. I studied like a degree and a master's degree in sports science and exercise science and physiology. So like first of all, when I first went into uni, I was into sport, and then I thought I was always going to work in sport and professional sport. Um, a lot of people get that understanding when they go into a degree like that, and that's what kind of attracts a lot of people into those different graduate
Hmm.
degrees. But very soon after, I realized going straight into professional sport is like very low paid, very hard to get into, often really, really challenging to actually get work in that kind of environment. And I ended up working in health instead in different
Hmm.
healthcare sectors in the UK. So that's where I spent my first kind of 6 years of my working career, if you like, working for big organizations like Bupa and the NHS, and
Other
spent
healthcare
time.
providers are available.
Yeah, spent time really getting an understanding of like how a patient journey can look like in terms of people coming in either with an illness or with a specific need around their health, and then using kind of my background. It was particularly around helping people in these different areas, such as their nutrition, their lifestyle in general, their stress, their mental health. Their physical health and performance around their fitness and training and stuff. Um, so yeah, that's where I kind of got into it really, and really fell in love with, I guess, helping people change their lives, which is something that I went on my own journey with as well, and that was a big driver behind why I help people going from quite fit going into uni, completely changing my body and becoming really unfit, really unhealthy.
Hmm.
Made me realize actually the importance of looking after your health and how bad it can be if you don't. And as a result of changing that, that's really one big driving factor behind my passion for helping others.
Yeah, happy days. I think you can't like you basically when it comes from a place of passion like that and a place of like maybe you've made the mistakes and walked the path and like it's something that you then sort of fall in love with that process. Like it's very, very similar to me, but just obviously a different path. But like you really get that sort of buzz for helping the people and seeing them overcome all the challenges and like, you've seen the pitfalls and you've seen the highs and you've seen the lows and it's just like good to be able to go along there. So it's obviously a really satisfying job, I imagine, especially when you're able to deliver things to clients or help them to a sort of certain part where they make massive progress. Am I right?
Yeah, exactly. You'll find it with your clients, but they'll be going through problems which you've experienced firsthand, and
Hmm.
it can seem like such a big problem at the time, but actually,
Hmm.
when you break it down into through coaching, when you break it down into like small, actionable goals, it ends up being fairly straightforward to tackle, but it's really hard to accept and look at that as an easy task to tackle because it's such a hard problem to deal with when you're in it. Whether that's
Hmm.
like being injured, or whether it's weight loss, or whether it's recovering from something, or having a mental health problem as well. Like all of those things are
Hmm.
people things that people do feel and come across, and if you've dealt with that in the past and having the experience of doing it, and you know how that person
Hmm.
feels when they see the result, it's really good.
I think the phrase is you can't see the wood for the trees, right? When these
Yeah,
people are, they're looking for solutions through like a magnifying glass, and you're looking at it through a telescope from a different universe, and you're able to sort of help them navigate the pitfalls and those kind of things. What would you say would the main challenge differences? Like, would you say, for an example of a typical, everyone's different, of course, but typical between the UK and Dubai? Since you've come across from, say, the National Health Service in the UK, would you say
yeah,
that you're seeing different challenges between those people who are now in Dubai? And, what does that look like as a generalization?
yeah. It's really interesting actually, because one thing obviously that's very different is healthcare is completely privatized here versus in the UK. I know you can get private healthcare, but generally people obviously get it for free, and it's not of the same standard and service. But on the flip side, because it's privatized here, everything's a business. Um, People are often kind of persuaded, pushed into different routes, which mean the clinical route is actually always considered. Whereas
Hmm.
my primary role in the NHS was basically a non-clinical role, even though I was dealing with clinical conditions. But it was to try and
Hmm.
take strain off the time that the clinicians, i.e., the doctors, the nurses, had to spend on a given patient. Um,
Hmm.
so the difference is that that clinical option is presented pretty instantly, or pretty kind of sooner in the journey that an individual might need. And obviously, because it's privatized, the business is making money on that. It means that it's like made easy for the patient to access that, whereas they may not necessarily need it at the time. Um,
Hmm.
so if you take
Is
weight
that
loss
are
as
you
an
saying
ins
that's a good thing? All right, sorry. I was going to say, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah, take weight loss as an example. You could look at it as good or bad, but like you've got the whole weight loss and Ozempic scenario,
Hmm.
which most patients I was seeing in the NHS couldn't afford, whereas here it's presented pretty quickly to people as an option. Now,
Yeah.
brilliant because they can go tackle their weight loss quicker, but
Hmm.
actually, is it really helping them in the long term? Because these quicker fixes still don't necessarily solve the problem that they were facing in the first place. And that's how,
Yeah.
if I had to summarize it, that's how I see it between the two.
Yeah. So obviously it's nice to have the solution, but when you've got the easy solution right there as a sort of as sort of a quick fix over a permanent problem, instead of going the holistic route of diet and exercise or something similar to that, then if you're presented a surgical option or a pill that you take once a day, then it obviously makes it easier for people to take that. And I guess that's like I've been in the healthcare system here in the UK, and I personally prefer the healthcare system in the UK more because I feel like everything's a sort of cash grab here, and it is sort of pushed towards, like you say, what's next? Let's explore surgical options. Let's explore this when, in the NHS, you're probably waiting 18 months for surgery anyway, so they're not going to do anything about it. So you've got all that time to get better, and then maybe you do get better and you don't need to worry about it. But obviously, you probably can't really argue with, like, when I was in hospital last week, I was admitted, CT scanned, X-rayed, sent to a room, admitted to a room, avocado eggs on toast the next morning, kept in hospital for 2 days. Like, that didn't happen when I had the same illness in the NHS. So I guess there's positives and benefits to both of them. But I just like I think we're more health aware now as a society. I think people are getting better. I think more people are being aware. Like, if you look at, like, say, the older generation, they had no idea what their resting heart rate was, you know, uh, what their sort of HRV is, what their sleep score is, or anything. But on the other hand, part of me still thinks that we're more health aware, but we're probably a sicker society because if you drive down any of the major streets here, you can get KFC, McDonald's. People, probably 90% of the people that listen to this probably get Kareem in some form or another every day. So do you reckon we're on the way to like a polarized society, or have I just like maybe manufactured a problem in my own head? Do you see any of that in what you see day to day?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it depends because we're all consumers, but it's how you consume that end product. Take like the
Mm-hmm.
Kareem as an example. The brilliant thing is, if you want to stay on track with eating healthy and you just
Mm-hmm.
genuinely don't have time to cook that day, probably partly because you've not put it in your kind of systems, but if you don't have time, you can actually get on the app and order something which is ridiculously cheap and healthy to eat, which is really good.
Mm-hmm.
But on the flip side, if you open the app, there's loads of offers for foods that probably aren't going to be as healthy at that time, and it's really easy for a consumer to end up going down that path and getting something like that. So I think the beauty of it is the access is there, but it's then kind of the problem that people face is when they have the access, what choice they make. And if you are
Mm-hmm.
finding loads of people making the choices towards the unhealthier option, then that's where that access actually becomes a bit of a problem.
I don't know why I came up with that question, by the way. I just thought of it while we were speaking. It sounded like a pre-made question, but I just thought of it when we were chatting there. You're obviously on a bit of a training stuff as well. You're a BRP member. You come and train with us to the track and come and do lots of different runs. And you obviously, what gets you out of bed? What makes you want to sort of train yourself? You've obviously been unfit, you said, and now you're fit. I would say relatively fit. And what would you say
Kind
gets you
of.
out of bed? What's got you going? You know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, to be fair, yeah, I'm in marathon prep at the moment, but one major reason behind that was because I was starting my own business, and I actually just really wanted structure. And by
Hmm.
sitting down every week and looking at the training program and understanding what I need to do the following week, I can also base that into kind of my working week, my kind of social week, and how that looks
Hmm.
in my relationship and everything. So that really helped me because now I just have a bit more structure, a bit more intention and purpose around my training. And it's really been a good like Kickstarter in line with the business to just kind of make sure that I am looking after myself whilst also trying to really push professionally at the moment. Um, if I'm not in marathon prep, I still kind of follow almost a similar type training style, probably just less intensity, but strength training is a priority for me, and I make sure I do that 3 times, sometimes 4 times a week if I'm not in marathon prep as well. And then I like to make sure that I'm basically hitting cardiovascular in different ways, which is as simple as it is one long, one short, an interval type session, and then one steady, easy session. And that for me is
Hmm.
like as basic as it is a pretty optimal training program.
Hmm. Have you ever trained for performance in any part of your life in terms of, have you always just trained for aesthetics and feel good, or have you ever had performance goals that you've trained for before?
Other than a marathon, when I've been trying to work towards a marathon time, pretty much no, I guess football, when you're young, you just do whatever you can.
You just do whatever, yeah.
You just turn
It's
up,
just,
play football 6 times a
ex-
week, and you're all right.
yeah, exactly. And then there's nothing really thought too much about the fitness and stuff or any of the technical skill. And you obviously do training and coaching as prescribed, but you know, well, certainly me in like rugby and stuff, I just never really thought too much about the whole situation. If you could get
Yeah,
through a match, you'd be pretty happy, right?
yeah, yeah,
And then
exactly.
if you could lift some beach weights, and then obviously it does get more serious the higher you go up. But no, I was just wondering. I'm always super interested to hear like what sort of motivates the goal, and what brings people. Sometimes I don't even ask myself this question. Like I've just decided one day if I want to do a sub 130 half marathon. I don't even know why I've decided that sometimes. And it's good to
Yeah,
ask yourself, right? And good to sort of put yourself into What's my why? What's the strong why?
Yeah.
You said that you started a new business. So what is the business? What does it aim to deliver? And, you know, what sort of drove you? You must have seen a gap in the market or something, I guess, in Dubai. So what sort of drove you to start that in Dubai?
Yeah, so I'm working now for myself and also operating and starting a business up called Flow Health and Performance Coaching. But
Mhm.
ultimately, that's what it is. It is health and performance coaching, and it's integrating these different pillars of health, well-being, and performance together for people to basically have their health looked after and help them optimize their performance in whatever aspect it is that they're doing, whether that's work or whether it's towards an athletic goal or whether it's just to show up and feel better on a daily basis.
All right, okay. So did you see a gap in the market? Like what drove you to sort of start your own work for yourself as your own independent business?
Yeah, yeah. So obviously I was working somewhere previously and I found that just actually going for it and being by myself was going to be kind of the next big step for me. It was probably something I was avoiding for a long time when I was actually working in the healthcare sector as well. And kind of came here and built up a decent client base and saw that there is definitely a need for kind of very good professional coaching for people who are interested in investing in personal development. They're interested in actually becoming healthier, feeling more energized, and showing up to work so that ultimately they can make more money when they show up, which, in
Hmm.
Dubai, a lot of people here want to be able to do because the results are ridiculous and the opportunity is really good.
Hmm. Yeah, so you're able to sort of help them maximize their returns in like a business sense and then also be probably healthier and happier people as a result, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's it. It goes into different areas of their life. And again, very different for every client that I work with. Someone might be on a very kind of in-depth personalized health journey. Someone might actually be quite healthy, but it's more kind of coaching around what they're doing day to day, their systems and their mindset and stuff like that.
What would you say is the main differentiating factor between like someone who is on top of their game, changes their life, not maybe not changes their life, but their life's going well. You coach them, they achieve what they want to achieve, they tick all the boxes, and someone who maybe doesn't do so well. And I'll sort of maybe go into give like a bit of a sort of previously like I played like rugby and stuff, but I never really achieved anything like that I was like really super proud of, or I didn't really have boxes ticked or whatever. But now I feel like I've sort of changed it, and I feel like I do tick boxes, and I feel like I've been both those people. And maybe like I don't know what, but basically I would say that there was a main difference between the way I acted, but I want to hear what your thoughts are between those two different people. That's why I sort of wonder what it is that differentiates person A and person B, and they might be the same they might be the same person, just in a different time. So what would you say makes them successful?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You're right. It might actually be the completely same person, but different points in their life. And maybe you could argue just with your kind of age and being a bit more mature now, that's why you feel like you've managed to see those achievements. But for me, it's someone, especially someone who is more successful, they have systems which allow them to perform to that level, which allows them to then get their result or outcome at that level. And then as a result, they get the achievements that they're looking for. And the systems come down to their daily habits and weekly habits that they choose to do. And again, all the habits that you do in a daily basis are a choice. Whether you kind of obviously make your bed or you don't, it's a choice. Whether looking after yourself better or not, all of these things most of the time, especially if you're in a comfortable position where you're earning enough money to kind of live in Dubai, you've probably got a choice to kind of do a lot of these things. So a lot of people are very kind of heavily focused around results and outcomes, but actually when we look at it, what makes people get those results and outcomes is the systems that they live by and the
Mm-hmm.
habits that they have that create those systems. So that's
Hmm.
a big thing that I focus on my coaching. It's not just about the weight loss. It's not just the before and after transformation or the time in the competition that they're going for. It's actually
Hmm.
coaching them to create systems and habits which change their life so that when they've then hit that achievement that they're going for, it doesn't just revert back to whatever it was before, but actually it's sustainable and they stay where they are.
Yeah, that's I mean, I probably would say that does resonate with me. I think that's probably one of the reasons like things that have got better for me. Like I have got better systems in place, systems to be able to a formula, you would maybe say,
Yeah,
that
a
works,
recipe.
and then you can just a recipe and you can sort of repeat it.
Yeah.
Um, I think it must be so interesting working, especially in like this environment in Dubai. Like I personally wasn't ever exposed to high net worth individuals or people who live the kind of life that people live here. It must be crazy to sort of deal with those people because you just generally don't rub shoulder to shoulder with day to day people like that in the UK. And it's not like they don't exist. It's just obviously you don't see them as much. But do you ever take that sort of pressure on yourself, or do you feel that pressure, or a different aura perhaps of those kind of people?
Yeah, it's a bit crazy sometimes, like when you can be speaking to someone who is super successful on paper, and maybe the metrics kind of that you'd get to suggest that would be their status, their kind of position in work, their revenue, whatever it is, or what business they're in. Um, and like in Dubai, it's mental because like even myself in like I've been here 10 months and like you said, it's like the amount of people you'd meet in the UK like that. I've met so many people who they've been living out here for a long time. They've earned ridiculous money. They've obviously worked very hard to do that, but you can meet people like that in Dubai, and then working with people like this, you almost just have to take a step back and actually really help them figure out their own problems. A lot of people, and I think this is
Hmm.
where a lot of coaches go wrong, life coaches particularly, will just go on and tell people about their own lives, and the coach will try to almost have their input a bit too much. But the best coaches are the people who can basically shut the fuck up, listen, and help that person understand what they're going through, and then
Hmm.
intervene with good and hard questions, which then helps that person actually come to the answer that they're looking for. I
Yeah.
work with some people who are in C-suite positions, and like I do not know the answer to the problem they're facing in their business. I've never been in the business that they work in, but I know them and I know how to listen to that individual and I know how to ask good questions. So then that helps
Hmm.
us get to a good solution for that individual. And it's a personalized one that they've thought of. So they feel empowered to actually take action on it and then they deliver a result.
Yeah. I think that is probably one of the most undervalued thing, and it's something that I aim to do in my coaching also. Obviously, in a running sphere, is ask the right questions. It's too easy to see people. You just have to walk down Kite Beach to see certain people teaching people how to run and pointing them and showing you're doing this. But if you ask them, the right question, they'll come to the solution themselves. And I think that's really good, and it's obviously an admirable trait that you're able to sort of ask those right questions. I know for a fact that I wouldn't be able to ask the right questions to someone in terms of a C-suite position. I could ask them about it on running or something, but it's obviously you've got that dialed in, and obviously the experience that you've got of that puts you into a great position, and you're probably able to relate some person's problem to another person's problem, or like use. I guess you probably have a. I've used this phrase so much this week, but like a toolkit of different things that you're able to use towards different people that you've used elsewhere. Is that what you feel like, or?
Yeah, yeah, and that's the beauty of it. Like again, coming to Dubai, how many of these types of people had I worked with? Not many, because I was spending all my time working in deprived areas in the NHS. But interestingly,
Hmm.
the tools that I use to help those people change their lives aren't that far different to the tools that the individuals of high net worth are using. However, it's the way that these tools are used and in what context they're obviously used in.
Hmm.
You know, a problem with anxiety is a problem with anxiety. Likely, there's very similar way that someone who is from a deprived background and someone who is from a wealthy background, very similar ways in which both individuals will deal with it. So it's just presenting people with different tools that they can use in a toolbox and helping them understand how to actually use that as well. And that's done through coaching and conversation rather than just giving
Mhm.
someone an app, a PDF, or whatever it is and saying, look, do this.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So if you're rich and well off in Dubai, just know that you're no different to someone who's got no money that's in the UK. You're still a human being and a person
Yeah.
um, at the end of the day. So they probably won't want to hear that, but it's true. But yeah, it's such an interesting space, Like I've seen some. I guess you're obviously not like quote unquote a life coach. You mentioned life coach in there. Is that someone who comes under a different bracket, right?
Yeah, for me, absolutely. Like, I think the best way I can summarize it is from what I've seen, life coaching, a lot of people are kind of in that to tell their clients about what they've been through and how they've dealt with their struggles, and that they should then do those tools that that person used. But
Mm-hmm.
they forget to just stop and fucking listen to their client speak. And
Yeah.
Actually, it's important to recognize that everything I do is evidence-based, based on different pillars of physiology, nutrition, and well-being, which is
hmm
kind of the background that I use, the kind of approach, sorry, that I used when I was in the NHS. And
hmm
if I ever had to intervene in a different way, I wouldn't know how to. So that's where I stop, and actually just kind
hmm
of say, look, that's kind of out of my remit. I can't really help you with that. But then I'll always ask the question to my client, what do you think? What do you think you can do about that? And often they can
Is
find an
there ever
answer.
a point? Is there ever a point that crosses over for you, like the professional boundary of like, okay, this is beyond the limits of my ability to help. You simply must see a psychologist, or do you, or maybe it's not going to be you must see this. It's probably going to be from you. Do you think it would be worthwhile starting to see a clinical psychologist, or do you think it would be worthwhile to seek professional medical help? Do you ever have to step in and make that assessment for someone where it reaches, say, a certain threshold where perhaps they could be of, such bad mental health that they require, not that you're not professional, but say further professional help?
Yeah, yeah. Fortunately, that's where I was, I guess, somewhat trained to do that in the healthcare sector, through different
hmm
courses and stuff. But absolutely, like, although it's interesting because speaking to a performance coach and sitting down speaking to someone for an hour, some people almost see it as like a form of therapy, but it's not. It's not at all. You can sit
hmm
with a run coach and speak to them for an hour, and it's like it's the same type of thing. You're just getting listened to, but because people have such little exposure to that type of coaching, they see it as
hmm
that straight away, which is really interesting because I get that quite a lot. But then, if something did happen in the sense that an individual needed or may benefit from like clinical intervention, definitely, I'm more than happy to say, look, this isn't what I deal with, and I really think it'd be a good idea to consider this avenue.
Yeah, it's just it's always interesting to know. Like, I just don't know if like the life coaches I've seen perhaps online, like whether they'd be sort of in that situation. I think you've got a really unique background and experience, having been exposed to people who are from that sort of medical background, that you probably got a unique experience that other health and performance coaches probably don't have.
Yeah.
The ability to see when something's like over the edge, and when someone needs, more professional help. I think that's obviously really interesting. Is there
Yeah.
anything, I always ask this question on every podcast, obviously because you've listened to every one of my podcasts before this, but I ask everyone if there's ever anything you want to put into a hypothetical room 101 of like, from your industry, it goes in the room, it gets locked away, throw away the key. So for me, like I always say for my running thing, I throw away like fasted training, say it's not worth it. You're not going to get anything from it. You might as well throw it in there. No one never use it again. Like there might be a time and a place for it, but it's not when you're with me. So see you later. So is there anything you would throw in the hypothetical room 101 of health and performance coaching something that you just think, yeah, I've seen that day by day on the internet, but it's total load of shite.
Yeah, interesting. That's fucking probably quite a lot. Um, One thing I've noticed here in Dubai, just going to different, lots of different fitness facilities, is that like people are getting smashed up, and
Hmm.
they don't need to be. Like you'll have fucking 55-year-old Susan, this is a made up character, of course, and going and doing a fucking clean and jerk. Like, what is that about, and why? Why does that need to happen? Do you know what I mean? But it's kind
Uh-huh.
of the class culture. I know it's quite popular in like London as well, but that class culture of like individuals doing things that is very technical, very complex, but don't need to do it, and it happens at a lot of places, which is
Hmm.
interesting. The good thing is it helps people get into different communities and they train, which is really good to see. But then on the flip
Hmm.
side, like I think there's definitely a
Susan,
need.
Susan's never gonna do a clean and jerk. She doesn't need to do a clean and jerk.
Yeah, there's definitely a need for people to actually kind of bring in more of like a strength training background, where you
Hmm.
have especially groups of, say, for example, menopausal women or older males that they're looking to live longer, they're looking to get stronger, but they're doing classes and not necessarily these high intensity ones that can be really taxing on the joints, really technical, and
Hmm.
actually potentially cause more damage than good. That's one thing that I've
Hmm.
noticed for sure. Another thing is that there is just so much bullshit that you can go and find out there, which is crazy. And it's like people are trying to sell it. And this is not just Dubai, this is definitely global, isn't it? But people are trying to sell anything at the moment to make a living off it on social media and on online as well. And it's like if we could just get all of that, put it in a box, and just stick to the basics, that would help
Hmm.
most people.
Any examples in particular?
Fucking hell, don't even know, mate. Uh, what can you think of? It's mad how much you come across, right? And now I can't even think of one. And what have you
Yeah,
seen
yeah, yeah. No,
recently that's
I
been
was think, I
absolutely
was think, I was
ridiculous?
thinking. Uh, Um, I don't know. I think like there's some random stuff that I'd probably put in there for just absolutely no need, like Botox and stuff like that. I'd probably just put that in there. But I don't know I don't know specifically what you're referring to.
I'm thinking
But
of
you know
more
there
like
is so
a
much stuff.
just like
A
like lots of
health,
different health supplements, yeah, and stuff like that that people
yeah, yeah,
like.
health supplements has got to be one of the worst actually. I think it's got to be probably get to a point. I actually spoke on the last podcast to Vicky about this. She's a qualified nutritionist and former NHS nutritionist. So like obviously comes, she's actually a nurse as well, comes from a clinical point of view and is just talking about all these supplements that are just not tested. They don't have no idea what they actually do and they're just absolutely slung on you. So, you know, if you go and take all these things that are promised to give you, you know, 274% extra testosterone, and then you some guy's taking it who does, you know, one HIIT class a week and then nothing else, eats Kareem every day. You know, it's just mental. You just think just do the basics right, and you know you'll be halfway there. Don't spend 324 dirhams on this testosterone supplement. It does nothing because if it
Yeah.
did do something, it'd be banned. Uh, and it's just absolutely pointless. Yeah, so I agree with you on the supplements, and I really actually agree with you on the thing to do with the classes. Most of the classes are uh, not fit for purpose, but like if you were to go and do most of the gyms, like say if you did their core program throughout the week, you'd probably end up smashed up. I see people doing like 5, 6 HIIT classes a week. They're probably everything's absolutely through the roof, cortisol, stress, whatever. They're actually
Yeah.
just putting on additional stress. And that's something that I say to my run coaching clients. I say, like, listen, you've got this line, and this is your tolerance for stress. It comes from work, it comes from running, it comes from finance, it comes from partner, it comes from everything. If I'm giving you this, you know, we've got to manage the other things to manage the stress line and put across there. But these people are going from stressful situations to stressful situations, and just completely, absolutely hammering themselves from all fronts. And then they end up getting stressed and burnt out and lack of sleep. And that's probably where someone like yourself should come in and go, listen, you don't need to go to all these different things. Cut it back. You still be just as fit. You can still do other things to sort of maximize your health and performance and actually trackable metrics so you know that you're still getting better, but you're
Yeah,
not putting your body in a bag 7 days a week.
yeah, yeah, exactly that.
I,
It's
I was
wild.
thinking there, I wonder if I'm guilty of what you said before about people putting people into different situations. Is me putting a 55-year-old man through a track interval session the same as me someone putting a 55-year-old Susan into a clean and jerk? Would you say that's the same? I don't mind to say anything you want. I won't take offense.
Uh, it depends. No, no, because it's a lot less technical. Now, if that person's got it's like you're not getting someone signing up right and throwing them into a track session and going full pelt first week, right? Do you know what I mean? If they're 55 and no running background, if they've got a running background, you probably would, right? But running itself produces 3.5 times more force than walking. Running at higher speeds does even more, right? So you got to think about
Yeah,
hamstrings, knees, ankles, calves, all of that, and the impact that you actually get from it. And then there is people that will just think, oh, I'll just go for a run, and they'll try and run as fast as possible, and then they're fucked, and they realize, oh my God, I can't run. But actually, you
mm,
can run if you just had a proper program, BRP.
yeah,
Um, but
yeah.
you
No, you're right though. I wouldn't personally put someone in who's never run before to track sessions immediately.
yeah.
Like it'd obviously not be very clever, but I was
But
just
then why
wondering because
why do
I would,
people go and go to a class and clean and jerk? Do you know what I mean? It's the same thing. Like they would. Like gyms do that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, they do, they do. It's always, I like to think about it because it's so difficult because I, on one hand, think that we as a society need to move more. And if Susan is going down, and I hope there's no one listening called Susan, by the way, because you're going to think that we're on personal attack on her. But if
Bless them.
Susan's getting out of the house 5 days a week and doing something, I'm like, yeah, it's really good. And the benefits probably do outweigh the risks, possibly. Because the other alternative is Susan's and McCafferty's every night on the sauce. I think one's healthier than the other, but I just don't want to make like a blanket statement. It's something that should be considered. But I do, I would probably maybe agree with your admission to Room 101. Like it probably would get in there. Um, I would. I know you're a big advocate. You're a big advocate of the Whoop, aren't you? Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, it's good. I think it's a good
Tell
tool.
me why you
Actually,
think it's good.
so I was against it for a long time because I was like,
Hmm.
why would you want to check things every day? I would say I generally am fairly good at listening to my body because I try to pay attention to how I feel. I do a bit of a scan every day, every morning, although it's very easy to do. It's literally a scoring system that I use every single morning, which is how my body feels out of 10, if I've got any pain, if I feel stressed or whatever. That's simple, right? And the Whoop literally does that for you. But what I don't do is check my Whoop first thing in the morning. I actually often forget to check it and like see later in the day how I feel, and it usually aligns because I've done a subjective scoring system in the morning in the first place. Um,
Hmm.
I like also seeing the different trends. So like being in this marathon prep, I've seen my VO2 max increase from whatever to whatever, and that's like cool to see. You see like your resting heart rate drop a little bit further and stuff like that. Um, so
Hmm.
yeah, I think it's cool and it's a good tool for people to use.
Hmm.
If you rely on it to give you feedback too much, I think it can be really unhealthy in that sense. So I
Hmm.
think that's the only area people need to be careful with.
It's actually exactly what we spoke about after the BRP Hill session this morning. We sat and had a coffee, and we were discussing both people had whoops on, and one of them said that they check it and whatever, and they've got years and years of data, and that's the first thing they do. And the other person said, I don't check it at all. And I was asking questions. I was just interested to know, not because I was trying to like tease an answer or something, but I was like, why do you check it, this person? You let it drive how you feel
Yeah.
before you actually physically go into yourself, and you have to actually physically think about how you feel. You don't just go wake up. You have to physically write something down or go through a checklist, like you said. I feel strong. I feel tired. I feel like I've got an injury. I feel like whatever. Was they're checking it first and then coming to their score after, like, coming to actually how they feel after. And the other person wasn't checking it. And then I was asking them, why have the tool if you don't utilize it? Because they said, oh, I sleep minimal amounts of hours per night. And I said, all right, you know that, but you don't do anything about it. So it's, whatever. I just find it all interesting. And I personally don't have a Whoop. I just find it like, I just know that you like it. So I wanted to ask a question about it.
Yeah. It's interesting when you see people very keen on the metrics, but not so keen on doing anything about it. Um, I
Mm-hmm.
always find that interesting because it's like, what clearly you've identified there's an issue and
Mm-hmm.
you said you want to improve, so there must be a block, there must be a barrier holding you back, even if you don't realize it's in the way. And like that person
Mm.
could be so close to doing something about it, but there's something holding them back, whatever it is, and that's in whatever in terms of their fitness or their sleep or whatever it is.
Mm. Do you reckon it's a tool for everyone
Um, no, I wouldn't say
or just
everyone needs.
athletes?
I
Mm-hmm.
think, and again, it comes back to health education. Like more people understand what resting heart rate is, more people understand what HRV is, more people understand like calories and how many calories they can burn. And actually, when you're looking at like the average person who's on a fitness journey that probably just wants to reduce their body fat a little bit, it like
Mm-hmm.
understanding it, like even though it might not be that accurate that you've burned 2,500 calories that day because you've done some exercise, using that as a metric to then be like, oh, today I can eat a little bit more than, on the days that I eat 2,000 and still be in a deficit. Like, I think it's fantastic. But
Mm-hmm.
some people just don't understand how to use that to their advantage, like the
Yeah,
data.
yeah. So they've got the tool. It'd be like going back in time and giving a Lamborghini to a caveman. They've got the car, but they wouldn't know what to do with it, right?
Yeah, and it's like when
If
people
you
do
could
know what
do,
to do with it, it's cool.
yeah. If you could go and like Thanos snap your fingers and anything health and performance, like, what would it like? Would you do anything specific? Like, I'm trying to think of an example of something like maybe what I would do. Like, I would love everyone to have a basic education on uh, health, fitness, the benefits for mental health. I would like to, be able to just implant that into everybody's brain and be like, everybody understands. Obviously, they see people who exercise, they probably are a bit envious of them, and they probably don't know what the benefits are, why they feel good and they feel rubbish. I'd love to be able to just give everybody the knowledge and understanding that these things make such a big difference to not only physical health but mental health. Is there anything that you would love to just be like, I wish everyone knew this thing. I wish everyone just like I was able to impart this knowledge into people. And if you do know, just tell them now what it is.
Yeah. Two things. One is a little bit more technical. One thing, I guess, is around mental health and actually helping people understand that there is support out there. There is ways to deal with anxiety. And being anxious doesn't mean that you're going to be anxious for the rest of your life. And
Hmm.
that you can overcome it through support, through taking action in different ways. So I think that holds so many people back from actually doing what they want to do in life or achieving what they want to achieve. And if we could help so many people with that, just because they have belief that they can get over it, I think that would be uh, a really strong
Hmm.
influence on the whole world. The other thing is helping people understand the impacts of HRV, heart rate variability, and actually
Hmm.
using HRV as a guide to live your life. So on days where,
Okay.
like literally, and you're obviously looking at a very custom life, but on days where individuals can potentially reduce their volume or intensity of life in general because their HRV is
Hmm.
low, versus increasing their intensity, their work, their life and busyness on days that their HRV is high. And that concept
Hmm.
actually, from what I understand when I was getting some experience in elite football, that is what people do in elite sport. You know, you'll get, for example, a football team and they actually do a little bit of screening every single morning and a wellness check. And players
Hmm.
that aren't hitting certain thresholds in terms of baseline scores, which are personal to them, won't be doing the same amount of training as they should have been doing that day. And that's
Hmm.
because their body isn't ready for it. So if people are doing it at elite level, why are we not also being able to implement that in real life? Because it's the same thing. You'll have the footballers doing the training session that they normally do, is very similar to the individual that might be in a C-suite position, going to the boardroom and having meetings that they normally would have. But if their
Hmm.
HRV is low, they're stressed, then actually, can they deal with it in the same way or at the same level?
Yeah, I think that'd be really good actually. Just to obviously brag, my HRV was really good today. It's been low for a little bit because I've been overreaching, which you'll probably
Yes.
not personally agree with. The HRV had been slowly coming down, but after a period of 5 weeks off, we can expect that, right? It's going to be a slog up the hill, I guess.
Yeah.
And then just understanding that my performance is not going to be exactly where I want it to be. Um, but last night we had a great sleep, resting heart rate back in the 40s, so we're cruising.
Boom.
And it's going to be really good, and it'll be good to sort of chase you around the track once again. Hopefully, once I get back to some decent fitness. Obviously, I've taken quite a lot of your time, and I think you've given people really valuable insights and stuff. I'm sort of wary that I don't want to keep you for too long from helping all the people you're going to help. But if people were going to seek out help and they've listened through 46 minutes of this wonderful podcast, how would they get in touch with you? Obviously, you're into coming to our sessions with the BRP sessions, so people could obviously talk to you via then, and then obviously how else would they get in touch with you, and what does a sort of onboarding process look like, or what just tell me a little bit about it as if someone was going to come in.
Yeah, so if not, Instagram, coach.cas, and soon to be flowhealthperformance.com as well. So that'll be a landing page for people to land on. The way I onboard people is basically have a discovery session with them to help them understand exactly what value I can actually give them. They get value from that discovery session themselves anyway. But often it's a great way for me to help someone understand how I can help them and also me to understand if I can help them. Because the last thing I want to
Hmm.
do is take people on just for the sake of it that I can't actually offer my expertise to. So maybe they're already
Hmm.
getting it in various ways and don't need it. So I think by having a discovery session, it's very transparent for both parties to understand what the journey of the client is going to look like, exactly what
Hmm.
support they're going to get, and hopefully what outcomes they can expect to achieve from the coaching support, which could be in different ways, whether that's kind of personalized training, strength and conditioning, and stuff, which I also do, or whether it's kind of performance and health coaching, which is more kind of an online coaching process with kind of face-to-face performance coaching sessions, which I do here in Dubai.
That's amazing. So what do you have? Do you have an ideal client? Like, do you have an ideal person that you coach, or is there like, is it not as defined as that? Is it someone who's just simply seeking to be better, or obviously, if you're looking after like a specific type of person, then what does that look like? Or if not, is it more generic? Could it just be anyone?
Yeah, it's someone, I guess it's the problems they're facing. If they feel like they're not in control of their health,
Hmm.
often that's impacting their performance, and that health might be physical or mental, or it might be both. And if they don't feel
Hmm.
in control of that, why not do something about it? Because you're only operating at a certain percent of your potential if you're not looking after yourself as well as you can. Um,
Hmm.
Creating better systems by identifying your current systems and becoming aware of them and how to improve them is the most important step towards that, because the systems that everyone lives by is what defines their outcomes on a day to day.
Very nice. final thing. What's the next goals professionally, personally for you in the next 6 to 12 months? Do you have anything written down? Do you have anything in your
Uh,
mind?
Obviously, I've just kind of in the process of finalizing, but pretty much set up the business. And the plan
Hmm.
is just to start pushing that out and actually get into different corporate organizations and start to do stuff within organizations and teams and high performing kind of settings. I
So
really
you do
enjoy
offer
to
like
do that.
office space stuff for like say if I run a massive company in Dubai, you would be able to come in and deliver like a group seminar and individual sessions, etc. Is that am I
Yeah,
catching your drift?
yeah, and workshops. So that's kind of an
Hmm.
area that I feel in Dubai especially there's a kind of big need for, especially for people to not just tick that health and well-being box for their staff, but actually confidently say that they're helping people change within the environment, which is then actually one driving better results for the employee, but two driving better results for the business as well. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, certainly getting into that space is something that I'm quite interested in.
Hmm.
Likewise, just keeping on helping my kind of private clients really push their own boundaries and unlock their potential.
Sounds amazing. I want to thank you for your time. It's really interesting, and I'm sure I will see you on Thursday for a little running session.
Yes,
Hopefully, inshallah, as they say.
yes, yes. Thank you,
Um,
mate.
well, thank you, and I'll see you on the next one.